Hello, and welcome to Lesson 6 of the Odyssey unit, Connecting Device to Meaning in the Odyssey. In the previous lesson, you read and explored Ithaca, a poem that shares similar themes with the Odyssey. You determined how an author uses devices to convey theme. Today we will explore the major features of the epic poem, and we will read and annotate the Invocation of the Odyssey, a section which introduces readers to characters, conflicts, and themes present in the epic. You will need your copy of the Odyssey, your Book 1 handout, which is attached to this lesson, dictionary.com, mythweb.com, and pantheon.org. Today we will begin reading the Invocation of the Odyssey. An invocation is an opening prayer. You might have witnessed an invocation at a graduation ceremony or religious service. We're going to read about the text features of an epic from the top of the handout. I want you to follow along as I read the Invocation of the Odyssey aloud. Read along with me from the top of your handout. The features of an epic. An epic is a long, book-length poem that tells the story about a hero. The ancient poet Homer wrote both the Iliad, the story of the Greeks defeating their enemies during the 10-year Trojan War, and the Odyssey, the story of the Greek king Odysseus's tumultuous 10-year journey home to Ithaca. The following characteristics are just some distinctive elements of the epic genre. Number 1. The story begins in medias res, or in the middle of things. In other words, it doesn't start chronologically at the beginning of the story. It starts, in this case, almost at the end, backtracks, and then goes forward. Number 2, an invocation or prayer to the gods for inspiration at the beginning of the poem. Number 3, epic similes or Homeric similes, which are more involved, more ornate than the typical simile, often lasting for several lines. Number 4, epithets or phrases that rename characters. For example, Athena is called the clear-eyed goddess, Odysseus is called the master tactician, and Hermes is called the giant killer. These epithets sometimes function as appositive phrases. This is the first time that we've seen these particular text features that are specific to the epic. We will be seeing them again and again throughout our reading of the text. Now we will read the invocation as a class. Read along with me as I read aloud. We will go back and look at the steps for annotation after our first reading. Sing to me of the man, Muse, the man of twists and turns, driven time and time again off course. Once he had plundered the hallowed heights of Troy. Many cities of men he saw and learned their minds. Many pains he suffered, heartsick on the open sea, fighting to save his life and bring his comrades home. But he could not save them from disaster, hard as he strove. The recklessness of their own ways destroyed them all, the blind fools. They devoured the cattle of the sun. Launch out on his story, Muse, daughter of Zeus. Start from where you will. Sing for our time too. Now, we will begin the process of annotating the invocation. Let's look at activity 1. Reading and annotating the invocation. We've already read the invocation, and now we're going to go back and look at the first few lines of book 1. By now, all the survivors, all who had avoided headlong death, were safe at home, escaped the wars and waves. But one man alone, his heart set on his wife and his return. Calypso, the bewitching nymph, the lustrous goddess, held him back, deep in her arching caverns, craving him for a husband. But then, when the wheeling seasons brought the year around, that year spun out by the gods when he should reach his home Ithaca, though not even there would he be free of trials, even among his loved ones. Then every god took pity, all except Poseidon. He raged on, seething against the great Odysseus, till he reached his native land. So our process for annotation is that for the first reading, you're going to define the terms that have been bolded for you. You're going to write a synonym or definition directly above the shaded word. For your second reading, you're going to use a handbook of mythological terms, the glossary at the back of the text, or MythWeb or Pantheon.org to look up background information for the shaded terms. You're going to write the explanation directly above the terms. Number 3, finally, you're going to use the questions on the right of the text to guide you as you record your insights and impressions about the text. So what you're going to do now is you're going to define all of the words that are printed in bold font and write a synonym above each word. And those words are hallowed, comrades, strove, bewitching, nymph, and seething. You have 5 minutes to define the terms that are indicated in the bold font. If you finish early, move on to step 2 of the annotations. When you finish defining the terms in step 1, move to step 2 on activity 1. You have 5 minutes to define the terms that are shaded, or in this case, highlighted in yellow. A list of these words is on the slide. You're going to use Pantheon.org or MythWeb to identify each of the terms on the slide. You will have 5 minutes to define or describe or identify these terms. Now you're going to complete the third step for the annotations. You're going to use the questions in the right margin to guide you as you record your insights and impressions about the text. For the question concerning diction, you're going to need to assign positive diction with one color to highlight, and negative diction with a second color to highlight. Let's look at the first annotation. Our first annotation in part 3 says, to explain the underlined epithet. Who is it describing and what does it suggest about him? The man of twists and turns. Well, the Odyssey is about Odysseus, who spent 10 years traveling home after fighting in the Trojan War for 10 years. So that's probably who the man of twists and turns is. And it suggests that he is able to strategize and be wily and cunning and make all of these plans and plots. So you're going to go ahead and type that in right beneath the question. If you wish to use a different color font, that's fine, so it helps you see your answers better. And then you're going to work on completing the rest of the questions. You'll have about 9 minutes to complete this part. Now for activity 2, you're going to write an objective summary, just as we did before. Remember that objective means without your opinions. You're going to have 10 minutes to complete your objective summary. Congratulations! You have completed Lesson 6 of the Odyssey unit. In this lesson, you learned about the major features of an epic, as well as the characters, conflicts, and themes in the Odyssey. You also practiced writing an objective summary.